Good evening, Vine Church, and welcome to our Wednesday night presentation. Got something a little special for you this week. We're taking a break from our normally scheduled program, and I'm going to show you one of our video blogs / podcasts on our series in reference to race. Now, really quickly, as we get into this tonight, Galatians chapter 3 says there's neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, male nor female, that we are all one in Christ. What you'll see tonight is two brothers in Christ discussing some of the issues that surround the subject of race and racism in our time and in our culture. It's not an easy discussion. I told you at the beginning of this series and the beginning of these podcasts that I believe the answer is somewhere in the messy middle, and there are going to be moments where you're going to get uncomfortable and it will be messy. I'm going to say it again. There'll be moments even tonight when you'll feel like I or Benji is way out in left field, or that our opinions are off the mark, or that we're trying to change the narrative or change the subject. Please understand, both him and I, number one, are friends, and we're trying to figure it out. I'm trying to be a good listener. He is too, and we're trying to work through it. And I think this is what the church should be doing, and this is how the church should lead, that we should exemplify and model what it means for people of different backgrounds to come together and talk through some very challenging subjects. If you're not up to date with all the things that are going on in our communities around the country, you may have to look up some of the stuff we're talking about tonight. But I just want you to know our hearts as you get started. And I want you to remember to offer grace as you watch this and as you consume this discussion. We're going to get back to our Bible study. In fact, we'll start a new one on Sunday, so offer us a little grace there too. But as we talk through a complicated subject, I pray that you'll listen, that it'll broaden your worldview and your perspective, and that you'll leave this conversation with a renewed hope for what humanity can be when people talk openly, listen intently. All right, here you go. Okay, welcome back to another episode of Pewology. If you are consuming this in audio through our podcast, then welcome. And if you're consuming this through video, what's up, through our video blog. This is my buddy Benji. I brought him in to have a little talk, a little one-on-one. So we started this whole string of interviews and panel discussions and one-on-ones. But we started it on Wednesday night, maybe a week ago, and we've released 5 or 6 now. Oh. And after the Wednesday night, when I did the address, you were one of the first people that was like, yo, right. We need to talk.
Yes.
So what were you thinking when you were listening to that?
There were a lot of trigger words that jumped out at me.
Okay.
And then to your point, you gave the beautiful disclaimer in the beginning, right? So I had to really take a step back and really reflect on the comments that was made and people's position on kind of certain thoughts and opinions. So then I was like, all right, hold on. There's completely a new world that I'm not even privy to.
Okay.
So, I wanted to kind of share that dialogue with you today as well. So to
jump in.
To jump in and kind of...
What was going through your mind? When you were listening to all that, what was going through your mind?
I was like, first, I'm not going to lie, the first, when you brought it up, I was like, oh, what is Mike getting
He's getting into it. He is jumping in, and he doesn't know what he's doing.
Right. All 400 years is going to come down on him. So he better be careful. It's not going to go pretty.
Okay.
So that was my first thought.
This is race is the third rail of don't touch it. It's the thing that if you venture in too deep, you're going to piss somebody off.
You are.
Yeah.
You are. And that's what I was kind of afraid of. But I was still, at the same time, I was happy that you even opened the dialogue to even have the conversation. Because oftentimes when we're put in this position, to your point, we just go back to our corner. If you don't disagree,
that's it.
I'm just go to my side.
Yeah.
You clearly
I write you
side.
off. If you don't agree with my worldview, I'll write you off. I'm done with you.
You're done.
Yeah.
Right.
And it almost like redefines the relationship. Like up and up, if we hadn't talked about it, we're cool.
Right.
The second we talk about it, I don't like what you say, it's like, I'm done.
Right.
I'm done with you.
Right. So that's what I found very interesting. So there was a lot of like little small comments that just jumped in my ear.
Okay.
And then immediately, like, I'm ready to harp on it, like, wait, you're missing this and this and this. So,
What jumped out to you first?
the first one, it was actually your Wednesday meet. It was your Wednesday. It's the one I normally attend, right? Your Bible study when you were first going over race.
Yeah.
And then it was the portion where you were mentioning to your black friends.
Yes.
And then you had some beautiful slides where he's like, I grew up in a time where I didn't see color. And then you gave all these great quotes. And I'm like, well, time out. There was a few slides previous where you've outlined slavery was from this date to this date,
yes.
segregation this date to this date, and from this date to present, bigotry.
Right.
So when in this timeline,
when did I fall? Like, that was like a warp. That was a black hole.
Right.
It was a warp. I got warped out into a different universe.
Exactly.
For that.
So in my head, I was like, all right, wait, hold on, because
Where's it fit?
where does it fit?
Yeah.
But then I had to take a step back, and
Yeah.
I was like, well, hold on. Mike is a white guy in America.
Yeah.
So he might not been thrown racism might not been thrown to him like
Right.
it's been thrown to me growing up.
Yeah.
So I had to see and experience
All of that. Yeah.
versus Mike. Hey, everything's neutral, everything's looking good, everything's wonderful. So where's this coming from?
Life is good. Yeah, I knew that when we opened up on that Wednesday night, I knew, like my wife said to me, "What are you doing?
Right.
You're ridiculous. Why are you doing this?" You know what I'm saying? I'm literally. She said, "I don't think you should be doing this." I had friends here at the church going, "Don't do it. Don't do it. What are you doing?" And I just kept saying, "I don't care. We got to do this. We got to deal with this. We got to." And yes, my comments are not going to be perfect.
Right.
And yes, they're going to be from my perspective.
Right.
But we got to start somewhere.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so my goal was just to say, hey, this is just my perspective. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and that was fair. And I think it took me some time to actually realize that. Because from where I sit, it's like, hold on, it's clear as day in my world. So I don't know what world Mike is in.
Living in.
Like, he must be living like the true Christian life.
Yeah.
Where everything's just picture perfect. And I was like, I need to get on his level. Because
my point with the quotes and stuff was to say, hey, I just want you to understand from my world, I've been telling my kids, my parents told me, my instructors, in divinity school or in high school, we were saying, be colorblind, be colorblind, be colorblind, be colorblind. And then it was like, Black Lives Matter. And we were like, don't be colorblind. And literally, I read one woman's quote that said, be color brave. And I was like, when did it change? When did it change? I didn't get the memo. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I was like, what's happening? Right? So all I was trying to say was like, hey, I think there's a world out there that doesn't understand this.
And what I would ask the black friends out there is that we need to understand and kind of also be sensitive that there is a world that don't understand. Even though in our eyes, it's apparent.
It's clear.
It's
clear.
It's clear as day.
Yeah.
So even the question, because I think I listen to every one.
Yeah.
And I've just been hooked, right? So even when Nelson asked the question, I thought he asked that subjective.
He put me on the spot.
He put you on the spot, right? And from where we sit, the black and brown community is like, all right, this one's clear, but then your eyes, you're like, all right, there's some details that's not clearly outlined within that scenario.
Yeah.
So give me full scope, and then I can give you what I think is going to happen.
Let's start there. So that whole issue, and I got to tell you, I think my views are still evolving on this.
Okay.
Like, I think I do my best. I think every human on the planet tends to like see what they want to see. Right?
True.
And read what they want to read and take in media they want to take in. It's very hard to be pretty like, neutral Switzerland on some of these issues.
Right.
But I've really tried. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna be afraid to read things. I'm not gonna be afraid to take in other viewpoints. I'm gonna try to be open and really think about these things. But I got to tell you, like, I'm looking at this whole like the approach with the police and policing. Mm-hmm. I think there's a group within the black community, and I've interviewed some in this series, that would say we have a systematic problem across the board, all policing.
I agree.
And then and would you agree with that?
I would agree.
Okay, so, and I have other people who are like, wait, whoa. Like for instance, I had a black officer in today would say, no, that's not true. That is absolutely not true. We have instances and experiences and bad moments and bad police, but we don't have a system problem. We don't have like the actual policing itself is infected as a system. You know what I mean? And I had other people on here. Like I've had multiple people. I said, have you had I asked this question. Have you had a bad experience with a cop? No. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, well, if it's the system. And so from my perspective, who has not had a bad experience? Well, I actually have. I have had a bad experience with it, but most of it was my fault. Gotcha. Right? And so I don't blame that on him. It was me. But for me looking into it, I'm like, I'm not sure what to believe on that. I tend towards the individual approach. Like, hey, let's talk about individuals. Let's talk about circumstances. Let's talk about what happened.
Gotcha.
What do you think?
I still feel like
he's like, all that great, Mike. I still feel like.
Yeah,
why do you feel that way?
There's a systematic issue.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess in my mind, when I just think about that issue in particular, I think, granted, if I'm looking at like Kissimmee Police Department, they have like, from what I've seen, right? I haven't really been having any involvement, luckily. But they have a pretty strong culture. But I think how it's generally governed today. So when we kind of look back to George Floyd's situation, right? And I think that's kind of an easy one to pick apart, right? Yeah. So when I look at that and you talk about like the accountability for police officers in general, I don't think there is none for police departments. So then when I hear stories from Josh, like I can feel what he's talking about.
When he said it, you connected it.
I connected it. Yeah. I connect because there's no accountability from the police department. Right. So I feel like there needs to be some type of control there. Okay. And then when I also think about the cases where, you have the unarmed or even armed black people and they're dying under police hands, and then there's no repercussions for the police department, there needs to be something systematic to hold that governing body
accountable, more accountable. Yeah, there needs to be like a check and a balance in your mind at some level. At some level. A lot of larger city, and I didn't ask the guys this. I should have asked this question today because I don't know what the issue is in Kissimmee. But a lot of larger cities will have a community review board. Not a lot of those are rubber stamps, but at least the idea is there that we're going to have community oversight at some level. What do you think about that?
I would like to vet that
if
one
you
out.
were on it, it would be okay. Right. Put me on the board. I got this.
Then I got it. Then I can smell like
it's hard to believe. Hard to have faith.
It's hard. It's hard, especially because at least for me, all it takes is one bad experience. Right. And then that's going to taint all of the good experiences that I've had.
Have you had a bad experience?
I've had.
Really?
I've had, and I think
Give me an
mine
example.
is the interesting one.
Okay, please.
I was actually expecting you to say, hey, did you see the video and tell me what you think? Because when I saw George Floyd, I literally saw myself on the ground along with them. Right. So I'm going to give you my story. I can look back at it and I can laugh at it because now.
But not in the moment.
In the moment, not at all.
Okay.
So it was one day while I was in college. We were just finished playing basketball. It was me and a buddy of mine. Okay. And we're going back to our apartment complex and just regular kids, right? Yeah. So, let's go get something to eat. As we're walking back into the apartment building, I see helicopters hovering.
They brought in the chopper on you?
Yes. So funny. It was hovering over the apartment complex. Okay. And within the apartment complex, they had a lot of trees, a lot of things kind of hovering over. So I asked my friend, I'm like, how are they going to get whoever they're going to get
in here?
Like, if I was a criminal, I would just hide between the trees, under the cars. Yeah. Easy getaway. Perfect. So we go into the apartment, and then we look in the refrigerator. Of course, like college kids, no food in the refrigerator. So I'm like, oh, man, all right, do you have a few dollars we can scrape up so we go get something to eat? So it's like, yeah, all right, sure. So we get back in the car, and as we're driving out the apartment complex, a light shines down on the car.
Like straight out of like one of those alien movies.
Like a UFO. light shines down on the car.
Okay.
So now I'm frozen. Like, all right, what is this? What's going on? Right? And all you hear is, Freddie, put your hands up, put your hands up, put your hands up. So me and him, we're just shaking.
Hands up.
We're shaking.
Yeah.
I hear license and registration. As I turn, a gun is right there to my temple. And my friend, he's clearly seen like, Benji, no. So I'm doing this, and I'm just scared to death now.
Wow.
So he pulls me out the car, throws me on the ground.
What city is this?
This is Orlando.
Orlando. Okay.
Yeah, so he throws me on the ground. I'm in handcuffs. I'm looking under the ground, and I don't know what they're doing with my friend. All I just see is his feet at this point.
Okay.
And all I can think of is like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I didn't think basketball was that bad. Like, I couldn't make a connection. Like,
It's happening so fast.
it's happening so fast.
Yeah, okay.
Right? So then, as they're searching our car, they put me in handcuffs, and I'm sitting on the curb. Cars driving by, just looking like, oh, look at these criminals. And I'm like, we actually live here. And the unfortunate thing for me is that I didn't update my driver's license to show that I lived there.
Okay.
I still had the
Old, yeah, because
old
you're a college
address,
kid.
College kid address at my parents'
Yeah.
house.
What college kid goes to the DMV?
So they asked me like a whole bunch of questions that I honestly didn't have no answers to.
Right.
And then at the end of it, they say, oh, yeah, well, there was a murder committed in this apartment complex. And then there was a red car that was described leaving the scene of the crime. So we suspect there was 2 black men. Whoa.
What just happened? That escalated quickly.
What just happened? There's no blood.
Yeah.
No gun, nothing. So they detained us for like 2-3 hours before they let us go. There was no apology, no nothing. It's like, all right, you can go.
Guys, my bad. Right. None of that.
None of that.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't have no criminal history outside of like tickets
Yeah.
from like traffic stops. But I was like, this is so random. So ever since then, when I see the Trayvons, the Mike Browns, and all the countless others, I just constantly see myself in that scenario. Like one split second, it would have been my story along with theirs.
Yeah. That could have gone sideways quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, granted, there have been some good cops, but from that experience alone, that tainted everything for me.
Well, okay, so I'm just looking in.
Sure.
Why? Why does it taint it for you? If the cops are looking for a black suspect, and
every black suspect?
Listen, I'm just saying, in that apartment complex, they're looking for a black. That's what you said. They're looking for a black suspect.
Right.
You're black in the complex. They think somebody's been killed. They can't stop you.
I could see if you stopped me and then you searched the car.
It was too much. You think it was too much?
It was too much. It was too much.
Okay.
It was too much. I didn't think and I guess again it goes back to the controls that they had in place. Right. Like, why am I driving out casually after a murder? There was no getaway. Like
you just decided to go back for a taco.
Right. There was nothing. I guess in my mind there was nothing that I felt like I've done to initiate that level of action towards me.
Okay.
So that was, to me, the discrepancy. So since then, now, every time I do get pulled over, now you get a flashback like, oh, my gosh, what's this going to be?
What's this going to be like?
Yeah.
Have you been pulled over since?
I have.
Pretty nerve-wracking?
Every time.
Yeah?
Every time.
I did hear this in some of the interviews. It was interesting. They said, one of the people that I interviewed said, I have to give myself the pep talk every time I get pulled over.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I can see that.
You know what I mean?
I can see that.
Like there's fear. It's welling up. Like, how is this going to go?
I can see that.
Yeah. Now, and for everybody that's yelling at the TV or the radio right now, doesn't really matter how you see it.
Right.
If the person who's getting pulled over is having to give themselves a pep talk to get through it,
serious business.
Something's going on.
Right.
Right. Okay. Yikes.
Right. Yeah, that was. Ever since then, now like. Anxiety is through the roof if I get pulled over.
Yeah.
But I still try to maintain my calm because if I start getting anxious and my wife's in the car, then she's on level 10.
Okay, so are you the calming factor?
I'm the calming factor. So if I get nervous, then it's...
You're getting in trouble right now.
Yeah. Love you too.
I love you, baby. So you're the calming factor. Does she tend to escalate in those kind of situations when she gets uncomfortable?
I think she does better now. When I first met her, she would escalate because she's, hey, I need to know my rights. Why'd you put me over? And I'm like, whoa, this is not the time or place to do any of this.
Yeah, we're not fighting a civil rights battle right now.
Right.
Like, let's just get through this.
Let's get through this. Yeah. If it's that serious, let's take it to court. Let's handle it that way. But in this moment, it's not a place to go back and forth with this police officer.
All right, so since we started this, like, okay, let's go slow. Give me your thoughts on the protests and
I got mixed feelings.
Yeah, because it's pretty crazy right now.
Yeah, I got mixed feelings about the protests.
What do you think?
I'm gonna start with positive.
Please, give me something positive, please.
What I like about the protests is the I guess the population of people that's been involved. Like now it's not just black people.
Feels diverse.
Yeah, it feels diverse. So, you have a wide spread of people, even globally, that kind of shares this pain and trying to communicate, justice for all people and, equal and opportunity for all. Okay. So that's what I really like about it. Some of the things that I can say I don't too much care for is although I get it, I get the looting, I get the burning the buildings, but I think that kind of taints the whole protest and I guess the fight for equal rights in my mind. And I don't know. And then I guess another piece that is, I guess in the back of my mind is like, how long is this gonna last? Because some of the actions that I've seen taken so far as a result of the protests has been more like money driven, like, oh yeah, Nike is giving such and such dollars, Jordan is giving such and such dollars, but there hasn't been any systematic changes within this process.
This feels like if the protests to me feel like the cap on like a teapot, like things have boiled up. This is the release valve, but it's not. We're not making tea yet. Do you know what I'm saying? We're not really doing anything yet. It's just the release of emotion.
Exactly.
Not that that's bad.
Agree. I feel that
the nation may need that.
I feel like it is necessary to at least initiate the discussion because I feel like without that, we probably wouldn't even sit here.
No, absolutely not.
Having this discussion.
Like we wouldn't have been doing 10 podcasts on race. Probably not. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So I do feel like it has its benefits, and I feel like it's the intent of it has. I guess the effects of it has really come to fruition, but now where do we go from this point forward? Right. And some of the things that I'm seeing is like, we could use the money because I know a lot of the crimes that are being caused in this, lower income neighborhoods are a result of, not having money, not being economically stable. Yeah. But how is that going to fix the systemic issue that we're truly fighting? Right. And that's what I keep questioning because I'm not seeing any of that. I'm not really seeing too much policy change. Yeah. And I'm still seeing like there's still a divide.
Have you thought of a policy along the way that you would change?
There's a whole bunch in my mind.
Really? Yeah. Give me one. Give me something that you would like. You look at this and you go, that needs to be changed.
I think you touched on it. I forgot what city, Breonna Taylor. Yeah. I think the whole,
no-knock warrant.
Yeah, the no-knock warrant. Like, who signed that bill? Like, that didn't make sense to me. That one didn't make any sense to me in my mind. So I'm glad.
I asked the police department that today, Kissimmee, and they were like, we don't conduct those.
Yeah, that
point blank.
For me, that. Oh, here's one that jumped at me that I would like to employ. Is one that keeps record of the police officers' offenses towards like any complaints or offenses that they have.
That seems fair to me.
Yeah, right. So then, if they try to apply at another state, another city, you can do a nice little background check. Oh, well, it looks like you have a history with, whatever effects in the public, so no, you can't be hired here. Right. So
and that's, to me, I think there's a lot of people listening to this, all different backgrounds, who heard you just say that and go, yeah, I can get with that. Like that makes sense. That's a policy change that I think most people think makes sense. Because if we were looking at any other issue, that's the exact approach that we said needed to happen with priests.
Exactly.
Right. We said, no, this secrecy thing's got to stop. There needs to be some public clarity on who's who and who's done what. and no hiding anything.
Exactly.
I don't think that's that crazy, right?
Neither.
Right. Why can't we get that done? We
know.
can probably get that done. Me and you, we're lobbyists now.
Let's do it.
Let's go get it done.
Let's do it.
All right. So those are things that I could agree with and make sense. But what about the whole defunding the police?
That one. Who made that one up? To be honest,
Right now, that's a big push. A lot from what I would call the group within Black Lives Matter that's loudest. You know what I'm saying? I mean, dude. We got Minneapolis just voted to, the city council just voted to disband their police department. You've got others that are looking at you have people running for office that are saying abolish the police department. Abolish the police department?
I don't know about that one. That's a bit extreme.
But that feels like the teapot, right?
Right.
Like too much is happening.
Right.
It's like too much emotion. It's like, do away with the whole thing.
And that's what's happening is that we're making decisions off emotion versus like practical sound decisions.
Yeah. If they left it to me and you, we'd figure this out.
Yeah, this will be done tomorrow.
Done tomorrow. Why can't we just fix this? All right, so let's go to a specific one. This one's tough.
Sure.
This thing just popped off in Atlanta 2 days ago. So now we've got Rashad Brooks. Mm-hmm. Have you seen this whole thing?
I have.
What? Okay, I'm suspecting we're coming at this from different angles, but
We probably are.
I watched this video, and my first thought was, these officers seem pretty respectful with this dude. Very calm, low voices. Yes, sir. No, sir. Help me out, sir. Can I see your paper, sir? You know what I'm saying? Like, it felt very like, hey, we're gentle here. Not a lot of like heavy-handed stuff. Went bad quickly, right? This guy assaults both the police officers, takes a taser, starts running off with the taser, points the taser at the gun while he's running off, put the taser at the cop while he's running off. I mean, what do you think about this? Do you think, they fired both the cops? The police commissioner steps down.
That one's tough for me because I agree. I think we're gonna
Look at it from different angles.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. I think people of goodwill
can
can look at these things and not always agree.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So on that case, for me, I still didn't feel like he deserved to die in that scenario.
Right.
Now, did he deserve the extent of the law once they caught him?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Resisting arrest, everything, the whole shebang.
Right.
The one thing that I felt like wasn't considered in that case was the guy was clearly under the influence.
Yeah.
So he wasn't in his right mind to begin with.
Fair enough. That's a good point. There's mitigating circumstances on his part.
You see what I'm saying? So considering that, I would have at least kind of taken a step back, like, clearly this guy is not in his right mind.
Right.
So at the end of it, you kill him? Like, that's where I'm like, I don't.
What
like
would you say to this, though, from the police perspective? What would you say? Because I got to think, if you're a police officer, you're thinking to yourself, okay, this guy's assaulted me. He's taken my stun gun or whatever it is.
Right.
And if he shoots me with that thing, if that thing hits me,
Right.
I'm incapacitated. What's keeping him from taking my gun?
So here's my objective opinion on that.
Okay.
So while they're on the ground tussling,
Right.
and he would have got shot while they're tussling, then I'm sorry, I really can't.
It's the running away part.
Yeah, I can't defend you.
Okay.
It's the running away. He's running away from
Right.
the crime,
Right.
and you shoot him in the back. That's
Right.
what I have an issue with. So then at that point, it's like, okay, now you really have no regard for this guy's life.
Well, I think from their perspective, they're thinking he could shot us. As soon as he realizes he hits us, he can come back.
Not running away. Like,
But
if
if I shoot you, I'm running. I shoot you. If I hit you, I come back and take your gun.
if you shoot me, it's less like I've known people that got shot. They're not coming.
They're not
towards
coming
the
back.
gun. They're not coming towards the gun.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, if somebody points a gun at you, like if you don't make the first reaction and try to get the gun and move it away or try to defuse the guy, like once the fire is shot, you're gone. Like, there is no coming back at that point.
Okay. I think it's going to be an interesting case. I think it's one of those ones where look, let me say this. It's one of those ones that it's a momentary decision. It happened very quickly. I think I think I look at this and I go, I'm thinking the city of Atlanta might have just made those cops very wealthy. I think they're going to be sued for wrongful termination. I think they're probably going to win. You know what I'm saying? And I think the family's going to sue, and they might win. I think Atlanta's going to come out of pocket a lot of money in this whole thing.
And that, I think that's part of the issue that I have is that when I look at, and I forgot the gentleman's name in Atlanta.
Brooks.
Rashad
Brooks.
When I look at Rashad Brooks, like, there's no regard for his life, though. Like, yes, I understood what he did was wrong. There's no question about that. I don't think there was no debate.
But it wasn't like a Floyd situation. These guys are they're pretty respectful, pretty nice. I mean, that's like, you know.
Fair.
Right, but that's regard for life. They treat you like a person, even though he's high. It passed out in the Wendy's parking lot.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. So I guess that was the underlying issue with all the cases for me. Like, when I look at the crime, it doesn't fit the death.
Okay. So it's the disproportional response.
It's the disproportional response.
I think that's a powerful argument. And I go back and forth on that one. Like, I look at that and I go, yeah, he is running. I'm like, but okay, let me ask you this. Let's say he runs. He's high. He's acting crazy. He's got the stun gun now.
Right.
And let's say he hurts or kills somebody else.
He kills somebody else?
Or hurts somebody else. Whatever. He steals a car. He wrecks the car. Like, what? I mean, because he's on the lam now, you know what I'm saying? Then we look at the police and go, you guys should have got.
And then for me, I guess that's where my position comes in, where I don't feel like it's any man's position to kill another man. Like, if you rob a car and you're doing all this stuff, then yeah, throw him in jail, throw away the key, you're done.
Yeah.
Like, and I think for most black people, once we know we're in the courtroom, there's little chance that we're gonna come out of there unscathed. Like we're gonna get the book thrown at us.
Okay.
So for me, once he gets locked up, you're pretty much a dead man anyway. Okay. Which kind of leads to another point I did want to talk about too.
The systematic problem within incarceration.
Well, that's a whole nother one.
Listen, that's another podcast. Yeah, we can't do it all today.
That's a whole nother one. It was the black on black.
Yes. Okay.
Crime.
Yeah.
Right. So when I look at first, whoever coined that phrase did a horrible job.
This is a horrible job?
Yeah, because I've never met a black person that committed a hate crime towards another black person.
Okay.
So
I think they're just saying the disproportional amount of homicide in our nation are from black individuals.
I wish they said it like that.
Okay.
I wish they said it.
Listen, we'd fix it. We would fix it in a couple of days, man, if we were in charge. All right, so what were you thinking about the black on black stuff?
But for me, when I think about the black on black crimes, and I might go on a little tangent, so stop me if you want to, is when I think about just crimes in general, they're usually, and I think I mentioned earlier, they're usually done in like the lower income, real impoverished neighborhoods, right? Okay. And unfortunately in America, majority of the black people are in those areas. So that's where you're going to find crime.
Right.
Where I have problems with, I guess, some of the data that's being thrown out.
So, but just to be clear, you think there's a direct connection between socioeconomic and violence?
Not necessarily violence, just crime in general.
Okay, crime in general. Okay.
Yeah, just crime in general.
Okay.
So where I find the disconnect is, like, when I hear about these numbers that's thrown out, and I hate CNN and Fox News, like I believe they have some blood in their hands too.
Well, let's get on that in a minute. Go.
All right.
Go.
All right. But when I think about when I think about that, and then when I hear the data sets like, oh yeah, well, just look at the black communities. Then what about all the white communities that are lower income? So no crime is happening there. We're doing pretty good on those areas. Why can't we employ whatever's happening in those cities into those, black minority areas that have those crimes in general?
I'm asking the same question. I'm just asking. I'm not blaming the black community. I'm saying, okay, so here's what I feel like is disingenuous. And like, this is where I can hear myself in my head saying, don't go down this road. You're going to get yourself in trouble, because everything gets like misinterpreted. Gotcha. But I want you to think about this from an outside perspective. We say we say, well, if I come and I say, okay, I'm going to talk about Black Lives Matter, and we say, everybody I've talked to says there's an epidemic. I've heard some people on the media use the word genocide. Genocide. And I'm like, whoa.
That's
and they're
extreme.
like, it's an epidemic. It's out of hand. There's all these cases. It's crazy. And I'm like, okay, as an outsider looking in, I go, okay, what is the numbers? Oh, don't ask about the numbers. That's racist. And I'm like, wait. We can't, if there's an epidemic.
Can I argue that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Point is because from our perspective, we feel like the numbers are skewed.
Oh, you don't believe the numbers?
Yeah, I feel like it's skewed.
Oh, okay.
I feel like it's
Well,
skewed.
I don't know how to fix that, because if you look at the organization that's set aside to keep track of the numbers now, I mean,
Who's the organization doing it?
well, the only one that's reputable in the United States right now that's keeping track of police violence is the Washington Post. And they have a special task team that almost every website that you look at, they're going to reference their numbers. It's their numbers that keep track. And the woman that's in charge of it is African-American, and it's a pretty reputable, pretty much everybody agrees that it's a pretty reputable unit.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I look at that and I just go,
See,
I don't know why we can't say that out loud. Like,
I still
why?
question everybody, like who, like, because I don't know. I
Yeah.
probably need to do some digging
Yeah.
on my end. But
Yeah. I'll send you something. But here's the thing, and I'm not saying that should change the conversation. I think what Josh said the other night was really effective. I think it was an effective argument, which is, hey, Mike, I think you might be right on police-involved black deaths on the numbers, but that's not the only number we're talking about, right? We're talking about civil rights violations. We're talking about incarceration.
Right.
We're talking about, like, just being jerked around. We're talking about, you know what I'm saying, unjust. So, and I was like, you know what? That's an effective argument. I was like, you're right. But I don't know why looking at the facts is always attacked. Like, it's shouted down. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, we don't. I had one guy tell me on the group podcast, I don't care about facts. I care about my feelings. I was like, well, wait a minute, hold on.
now, can I kind of help his argument?
Okay,
just a little
hit me.
Is the reason is because from our respect, we don't have nobody that's keeping score sheets on racism. So for us, it's truly an experience.
Okay, fair enough.
So it's hard to sit there and be like, hold on, you're throwing out all these facts. But if you walked in our shoes, you clearly see what we've experienced day in and day out.
Right.
So I think that's where the disparity. So when you throw facts at us, we're like, Mike, we hear those facts, but who's narrating that story?
Right.
So from where we sit, like, there's a entirely different story that's happening in the background, and nobody's keeping track of all those numbers. So then we can do.
So in that effect, experience does trump the facts. I get it. That makes sense. That's a fair argument. Let me ask you this: you got let me throw this number at you. This is a shocking number to me, because you brought this up. You opened the door. Let's remember that. He opened the door.
Let's do
Okay.
Let's do it.
This is a crazy number. I saw this today, and I was like, jaw open. I was really like, whoa, that's nuts. Tuskegee Institute has kept track of every single lynching that had taken place from the Civil War all the way through Civil Rights Act. Okay? If you had to guess, and I'm not putting you on a spot to make you look dumb, because I did not know this number. I was not even in the ballpark.
I know I don't know it, but I'm pretty sure it's high up there.
I thought it would be high too.
No.
3,000. 3,000. It's over 3,000. It's like 3,000 plus. It's about a 100-year period, you know? And I was like, I thought it would be a lot more, right? But that's a lot. I'm not denouncing 3,000. I mean, 3,000 lives is a lot of lives lost. In my mind, I was thinking 300,000.
Gotcha.
Literally, in my mind, if you would have said 300,000, I'd been like, yep, okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't know where to start in the number game. But that number's crazy to me for this reason. We talk about really addressing the thing that underpins all of this violence that affects the black community and all our communities. Mm-hmm. There are over 3,000 black on black homicides every 6 months. Every 6 months in this country. That's shocking to me. Like, to me, I look at that and I go, whoa, that's shocking. Now, when I put that out there, sometimes it's like, you're changing the conversation and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And I get it, but I'm just learning this stuff. This has brought up all of these new things that I didn't even think about before. Gotcha. And I'm looking at the numbers and I'm like, gosh, this is crazy. You know? What do we do?
I always lean back to just the poverty-stricken areas.
You think it's really connected to that?
It's really connected because it's almost like a crab in a barrel type of thing.
Okay.
So, if this one guy has it, I got to find a way to get it because otherwise I'm not eating, or I got to figure out a way to survive.
Yeah. So
I feel like there is a connection
between
somewhere.
desperate times, desperate people, desperate situations.
Yep.
Wow. And even if whether or not that is the answer or not, or whether or not that's true,
and then
that's got to change.
It does.
That's got to change.
It does.
We got to do something. And in that, I agree that there's some systemic problem going on in our country, if that's the case. And if I'm just now learning this, and nobody cares about this, and nobody's addressing this,
Mike, so look, and then this is where I go back to kind of our judicial system, right? So because and again, I'm learning like the other end. I'm learning your world's view, right?
Right.
So then when we have like a jury selection of 12 people that do not share my worldview, but then we'll have a cop, on the stand saying, hey, look, this is what he did. His word is Bible. No matter what I say,
right?
It
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. But there's clearly
how would we do that? Like, let's fix that problem right now, me and you. How do we get jury selection worked out where it's like more fair?
More fair. Oh man.
I think we do it based upon iTunes listening log. We just go, I'm gonna need your playlist before you get on this jury.
Right. I'm not sure.
You're not sure?
You listen to Justin Bieber.
Yeah, you're out. Sorry, you're out. Or at least I can only take 2 of you. I only take 2 Bieber listeners, and I got to get somebody else over here. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know how to fix that.
Yeah, I don't know how to fix it, but whatever we're doing today, I don't think is working.
Yeah. Will in one of the panel interviews that he brings up the incarceration numbers in New Orleans and in Louisiana, and they're shocking. I went back and looked at it. I'm like, wow, these are shocking.
And then one thing I would also like everybody to look at is the education level.
Yeah. For
a lot of people that's incarcerated.
Yeah.
And you'll find a majority of them don't even have a high school diploma.
Yeah.
So you don't have a high school diploma.
I'll tell you the other number I brought up,
Sure.
and I've gotten some pushback on too. People getting upset. I'm really not trying to change it. I'm really saying let's look at all this. The number of people incarcerated that grew up with single parent home, it's shocking.
True.
I mean, it's shocking.
True.
The absence of a father
is big.
Is big. Is big.
It's big.
I mean, you're raising a family.
Right.
You got kids.
Right.
You're pouring into these guys. You get it as a father, right? Mm-hmm. Did you grow up with a dad?
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you get the trickle-down effect of this. But I don't think we understand the combination of poverty plus no dad present and the violence in the community. And like all of a sudden we've got...
It's a mixing pot for disaster.
I think that's what it feels disingenuous to me. I know I'm going to get myself in trouble again, but it feels disingenuous to me to focus on any of these one things. Like when you start looking at this as if we're really going to look at a systematic problem, that there's evil and brokenness that's created this system, we got to have to look at all these factors.
I agree.
And we got to have to go, well, what can we do here? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do we do? How do we? I think the next thing we're going to do, so just so you know, we're spending this week kind of talking about the steam being let out. And then we're going to kind of shift the conversation next week and spend some time asking, and I think it's going to be hard. What do we do? Where do we go from here?
Question,
yeah, because it's easy for people to get together and have a podcast and vent.
Of course.
But it's not easy to have a show that's an hour long that comes up with like plans.
Right.
Everybody's really good at venting and very good at coming up with answers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So have you thought any about this? Have you thought like, okay, what do we do? How do we, even like at our church, what do we do to promote, like as Darryl would have said, each other's humanity? As he said Sunday morning, hey, we got to promote humanity. We got to promote each other. We got to listen to each other. We got to love each other. We got to know each other. How do we do this?
That one's tough. Right now, I don't have the
answers either. I'm not putting you on the spot because I got nothing.
Right.
I'm waiting for somebody to say something that I go, oh yeah, that sounds good. Yeah. But right now, I'm besides talking and listening to you and hearing your experience and not prejudging it is the only thing that I know to do. You know what I mean?
I'm with you. This is great that, we're breaking barriers by
Yeah.
trying to understand each other.
Yeah.
But to your point, like, what are we going for here? Like,
Yeah.
okay, I heard them, but now I'm go home and play with my kids and everybody's happy. Like,
Yeah.
no, I would like to, I don't know, for me, I'm trying to entertain different thoughts and ideas to try to figure out how to solution it, but I can't think of nothing.
Yeah, that jumps out. Like, if we
jumps-
do this, it's the silver bullet.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed, too, that, we've put out, I don't know, 4 or 5. We've got 4 or 5 more that we'll probably put out in this series. And I've noticed, too, that it feels like everybody's a little, like, there's some people commenting, but I think everybody's like, am I allowed to comment? What should I say? I don't want to say the wrong thing. These are my church family.
Can I help them
what do you got?
as well? So, and I have to give the props to my wife, so hopefully make up from the earlier comment. Right? So for us, what make this topic touchy is that, again, every black person that we see die,
Right.
we can connect with it directly.
Yeah. Right.
So when you're commenting on it, comment as though somebody has died
In the family.
Yeah. And take that approach.
Yeah.
So when we hear, oh, what about black on black crime? So
Yeah.
you clearly negated that I've just suffered a death, and you're worried about something else. That's
the
what's
national
going on.
stats.
Right. You're worried about everything else.
Yeah.
So if they kind of took that approach and be like, hey, man, I'm here to support you. I'm here to help you. What can I do to help? Or is
Right.
everything okay?
Right.
Then that would be received well. It's when, man, I'm not sure if I agree with that stance. And
Yeah.
whoa, I'm still grieving over this death. And
Fair
we're
enough.
talking about all this other stuff in my mind that really doesn't matter. Somebody died right now.
Yeah.
So I
think part of that is like guys too. We've had a lot of guys. I got some women coming up that are going to participate, but I've got a lot of guys. And guys, I tend to think they blow off steam, and then they try to fix it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so we get into we're like, oh, we're getting into like, the last panel we had was just talking about stats and numbers and this and that and cocaine trafficking in the 80s. We were like all over the place, man. I'm like, what are we talking about? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is happening? But we did some of the historic, systemic evils and redlining and stuff. But I'm like, I'm not sure. We're blowing off steam, so I've let everybody just talk. I'm like, just jump in, you know?
Right.
But I think when we start turning the corner and we're going to have to think outside the box, we're going to have to think different than we've thought.
True.
If we're going to come up with long-lasting relational change, like if we think, hey, there's a relational issue here that we've got to address, we're going to have to come up with some things we haven't thought about.
Agree.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know the answer to it quite yet, but.
Do you think, I mean, to me, okay, so let's just end on this idea. So we're at the same church. What is it? I think the church is positioned to lead on this, meaning that if church communities could become diverse places,
Agree.
right, that we shed an example of how to do this. Like we laid down an example to the rest of the world. So let me say it this way. If on Sunday morning we modeled diversity and unity and love and honor and all that kind of stuff, wouldn't it be easy to go back out into our world, into our community, or no? You look so suspicious of that.
No, that one, because I agree with it conceptually.
Okay.
Conceptually, I do agree with it.
It's just pie in the sky stuff.
Yeah, but what makes it tough is that if I'm thinking about like somebody black that is kind of struggling, he goes back into his environment, then oftentimes they're usually a product of that environment.
Okay.
So they fall back into the trap of, oh, let me do what I got to do to survive, and that mentality.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where I kind of struggle with it. Whereas they could be to your point, they could be like the pillar in that example. So if there's a way that we can have the church end up in the neighborhood to show, hey, look, not all cops are bad, or not all white people hate black people, and kind of spread the love that way. I don't know where that would go, but that in my mind, that may be I would like to kind of throw the ideas off a few people, but in my mind, that probably be a suggestion that I would like to entertain to see, what would be the response to that, but in my mind initially, I don't know. I do feel like church should be the foundation of the solution. How? I don't know.
Yeah. To me, I look at so I default, one of the numbers that sticks out to me is that fatherhood number. And so I go, okay, so if there's 67% we have 67% of young, like let's say 10 and under, or 5 and under, or whatever it is, black students in Osceola County that are growing up fatherless. Well, we could strategize. We could come up with a better mentoring-based programs.
Yeah.
We could come up with better, like Big Brother-based programs. Maybe those things are going on. I just don't know about. I mean, these are the first time I'm seeing all these numbers,
right.
and I'm like, boom, boom, blown away. So, could we do? Is that the way to do it?
That would be action. I think that would be actionable.
Yeah, like if I came to you and said, hey, we're gonna start working with like a community here or a apartment complex here, and we're going to target everybody here that needs just a male mentor. You would do it?
I'll do it.
You're in? I'm in too. We can fix this.
Yes.
We'll be the trial run.
There you go.
We're going to be the prototypes for this. I don't see why we couldn't do that.
No, I would like that.
Yeah. I mean, me too. I look at like even what's going on in our community. We've got like even right here, one of the mission outlets we work with is Home, which is helping others make the effort. It's for single moms. That means every kid there is growing up to some extent in a single. I'm like, we could just take those kids. Like, even if we just take those kids and said, okay, we're going to make ourselves available. We're going to do basketball once a week. Nice. Or we're going to, like, whatever we're going to do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We're going to go over. We're going to take an hour out of every week. We're going to go over and play basketball. We're going to have a little Bible study. We're going to do a little thing. We're going to, whatever. We're going to pour some life into these kids. Why? We can do that.
Yeah, that would be, and I think that's actionable.
Yeah.
And that may have the impact that a community like that would need.
Yeah. Because I look at it, I think when the problem is so big, it's like you get a little paralysis by analysis. It's like it's so big that you're like, how do we fix this?
Very true.
I don't know. I think you just got to start something little and go, let's just take a bite. It's like, how do you eat the elephant? One bite at a time. Boom, boom, boom.
Agree. Yeah, we can fix this, man.
Okay, let's do it. I love this. Okay. All right. Well, listen, man. I appreciate you. First of all, I appreciate your friendship.
Yes.
I appreciate you reaching out and saying, hey, let me give you my perspective. I appreciate you coming in and sharing. And let's give it a week to think about it and come back.
Absolutely.
And talk about, like, how do we refine our outflow of this?
Let's do it.
You down?
Let's do it.
All right, man. Love you. Thanks, guys. Love you. Mean it.